Hi, I'm Kristen, and I'm a pregnancy coach that works with pregnant mamas all over the world. I help you go from feeling anxious and overwhelmed to really enjoying your pregnancy, preparing for a sacred natural birth, and giving your baby the beautiful beginning that you are dreaming of. Today, I want to talk to you about how to use your birth plan to have a great birth. I am a firm believer in birth plans for multiple reasons, and one of them is because your birth plan helps you think through what you really want, and it helps you understand what happens in a typical birth, even if it's a hospital birth or even if it's a home birth. You get a picture of what happens, what interventions, procedures, and those sorts of things are standard, because even if you're having a home birth midwife, she's going to have procedures and things that she needs to pay attention to if she's licensed or has any sort of jurisdictional body over her. So you want to understand what those policies and procedures are that your care provider needs to follow, whether at home or in the hospital, and a birth plan gives you a chance to figure that out. Now, I want you to spend time making a good birth plan, and I'll put a link below that gives you access to my birth plan kit, which you can go through at no cost. But I want you to go through and make your birth plan by thinking it through the way that my birth plan kit and the videos that go with it walk you through. Because if you use just an automated birth plan generator online, and I know there's a bunch of them, it doesn't really give you a chance to dive in and decide what you want and what is important to you. Also, they look really formulaic, and they're probably not going to get a lot of attention. I know some care providers like the graphic birth plans out there, but the ones that are little icons are useful for at-a-glance kind of things. But again, they're really formulaic. They look like what every other mom's bringing in, and sometimes they just get dismissed. So you want a birth plan that you've thought through, that you've worked on a bit, and that looks like it's personalized to you, because it is. And you also want to have it early and often. And that's really my first core tip, is you want to go through and think about your birth plan early and often. Many moms have this number in their mind, okay, at 36 weeks, I'm gonna talk with my care provider about my birth plan. And I definitely want you to have done it by at least 36 weeks, but I'd really like you to be thinking about your birth plan even earlier. In working with clients for over 17 years, what I found is it seems to be around 24 weeks, 26, 28 weeks, that time when you're getting to the end of the second trimester and transitioning to the third, that your brain goes, oh, I have to get this baby out. And you start thinking about the birth a little bit more, and it feels more imminent to you than it did beforehand, even if you knew you wanted a natural birth before. That is a natural time to sit down and work on your birth plan. And if you're earlier than that, that's great. You can get a head start. I think that's fabulous. But if you're at that point or past that point, now is definitely the time to sit down and think about your birth plan, because thinking through what you want and then going through it now gives you the time to research and understand what different procedures are. If you use my kit, you're going to see a lot of different procedures listed, and I want you to understand what all of those are, why they're used, and also why it might be best to avoid them. Understand what would be the consequences of having them, and also the consequences of choosing not to have them or waiting and seeing if something happens. For example, induction. You're going to get to go through all of those options. And then you want to start talking with your care provider about them earlier. So that's another benefit of your birth plan, is that you have a birth plan and you dialogue about it early and often with your provider. Now, ideally, you have been one of those women who asks questions with curiosity about everything throughout your pregnancy. So your care provider or providers are used to you going, oh, we're going to do this test. Oh, well, why do we do that? How does that help me and my baby? What happens if I choose to say no to that test, or if I don't want to have it done? And your care provider just gets used to you questioning and asking and being curious and earnest and involved in your care. Because it's your body, your baby, your choice. You can collaborate with them, but you need to understand everything that's being done. Because just because a procedure is standard doesn't mean that it's a good idea or that it even benefits you and your baby. So ask questions all throughout your pregnancy. Question everything, even if you think you're going to go ahead and have it done anyways. Question everything. And then when you bring your birth plan on board, that's the time to start questioning everything about birth and talking about it with your care provider well before you get to the hospital or you call your midwife to come to the house. You've already talked through all these things. That gives you the opportunity to talk through everything for you, and it also gives you the opportunity to gauge their response to what you're asking for. Because if you're sensing hesitation or hostility or reticence to dialogue with you about that, that might speak volumes and help you make decisions on your care that are important and can have powerful implications for having the birth that you want. So think about that. And then also use your birth plan to plan your preparation for birth. Because as wonderful and as amazing of a tool as I think a birth plan is, and how important I think it is for most moms to do, it's only one very small part, because it represents intellectual preparation. It represents doing research and your homework and making choices, but that's only one very small part of preparing for a birth. You also need to think through, okay, I've drawn this picture or written this picture, this description of this birth that I want to have. How am I actually going to make that happen? What do I do now to make that birth happen? And as a pregnancy coach, that's what I love working with clients on. If you're watching this video, I know that you are an ideal mama who wants to have that beautiful birth for your baby. You know, okay, Kristen, I'm going to do my homework. I'm downloading the birth plan kit tonight and I'm getting started with it. But then you might think, okay, well, how do I make this happen? This beautiful birth isn't going to manifest just because you filled out a birth plan. This beautiful birth happens because you're ready. You have birth skills. You know what to do. You know when to go to the hospital, when to call the midwife, or if you're having an unassisted birth, you understand everything that's going to happen so that you feel calm and ready for this experience. You know that you've got tools to work your way through it. You know that you're well nourished, that you're low risk, that you feel good, that you've worked through all of the emotional stuff, both your conscious and your subconscious fears, and those fears that society kind of presses on us. You've done that inner work, you've done that soul searching, and you've done that preparation. That's what I help clients with as a pregnancy coach. I'm there to support you. I'm there to help you figure out, how do I stay low risk? What do I eat? How do I exercise? How do I move? How do I balance all the stress in my life? How do I work through all these relationships? How do I talk to my care provider, Kristen? It feels intimidating to do. That's a conversation I have frequently with clients and that I'm able to help you with so that you can advocate for yourself and your baby with confidence. We talk frequently via Zoom, and you can shoot me a text or send me a voice text if you've got a question that you need to ask or you just need to vent. I am there for you. If this level of support sounds good for you, I would love to chat with you about that and how it can look during this pregnancy journey. Head over to birthbabylife.com/beautiful and let's plan to chat this week on how I can support you.